I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do any board members have any conflicts of interest that you would like to disclose?
No, nothing to declare.
Okay. We are a little over midway through our budget process. The trustees have asked SRF to come tonight to just give an update on the pedestrian safety plan. The three other members of the pedestrian safety plan committee could not be here tonight, so we are not going to take action on this. This is just an informational update.
Actually, I think I saw Renee.
Yeah, Renee's here. Oh,
I'm back here.
well, I didn't think you could be here, Renee. I'm glad you came. But in deference to the two subcommittee members who can't be here, I propose no action is taken on the plan tonight. This is only an informational meeting for the benefit of the trustees. Okay? All right, with that being said, I'd like to hand the floor over to David Cruz. David is a traffic engineer with SRF Associates, one of the consultants that's worked on the active transportation plan, is assisting us with the pedestrian safety plan. So the floor is yours, David.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. I've spoken in front of several of you, many of you, before about this project. This sort of comes on the heels of the finalized combined town and village active transportation plan. This project, the Pedestrian Safety Action Plan, was born from this project, from the active transportation project, the ATP. In that regard, ATPs are becoming more prevalent, more popular for small to mid-sized communities, and even more over regional areas. The shift to multimodal thinking and multimodal ways of getting around, not just in a vehicle, is really becoming more of a priority for people, both with choice or without choice. And so this plan in this community recognized that and stepped forward and wanted to go down that path of developing a multimodal plan for the community. With that, we look at various factors, and I'll take a step back and just mention that this plan has been worked on by many members. My name is David Cruz. I'll just step back and say that, introduce. Work with SRF Associates. The subcommittee, Brooke cannot be here, or Lisa cannot be here. But this plan has been worked on by great individuals, and we've received great input up until this point. So really I just wanted to take a step back and give you a timeline that this project has been going on since about 2017. We've put forth concepts both to the New York State DOT as well as the local emergency and response agencies. We've received input from both agencies and many individuals to refine these concepts and really get to a point where these concepts are they're by the letter of the law. That we want to ensure that we're maintaining, we're targeting a high level of safety for pedestrians, for bicyclists, but while at the same time ensuring that some level of guidelines are adhered to. But I will say that I'll get into why we chose these 4 locations. Looking at this active transportation plan, we did a number of analyses and reviews. We chose these 4 locations because of really 4 primary reasons. They're high activity areas for pedestrians and for bicyclists. These roads experience 20-25,000 cars a day, so they carry a higher risk and exposure factor for those most vulnerable users. The public came out in as part of the active transportation plan and identified these locations as well, knowing that there's pedestrian generators, the canal, it's for Derry, Del Monte. There's quite a few areas and activity centers that generate these pedestrians and bicycles, as well as vehicle speeds. We know from working in the community years ago that vehicle speeds coming into and out of towards the thresholds or the gateways of the village can be higher. So trying to calm the traffic, trying to calm those speeds looks to achieve a higher level of safety for pedestrians and bicyclists. So I'll just quickly get into the four concept areas, the four areas that were chosen. The first location here that we're showing is the South Main and Church Street. This location currently has a crossing distance, pedestrian crosswalk distance of about 60 feet. We're looking to shift the crosswalk to the south side of the intersection, effectively reducing the crossing distance to approximately 33 feet. We've gone out here with the fire department. We've taken a ride along essentially in their biggest rig to take a look at what the challenges are that they face on an everyday basis. Hopefully not on an everyday basis, but on the occasion that they have to, we've taken a look at turning movements, and this plan responds to the challenges that they face, as well as some of the constraints that the roadway actually experiences. So on the west side of this intersection, there's a steep grade change. So this plan looks to try and shallow that out while reducing the pedestrian crossing distance. If there's any detailed questions, I'll get into them, but I just wanted to run through these. So this is South Main and Church. The next location was Monroe at Washington. No infrastructure, no physical improvements here. However, we want to shift the crosswalk from its current location westward towards the canal. This effectively reduces the crossing distance by approximately 11 feet for a pedestrian. So it reduces that exposure time and that risk level for pedestrians crossing at this unsignalized and uncontrolled intersection.
David, can you just point out on that picture what you're talking about?
Absolutely.
Shifting.
Yeah, so currently right now the crosswalk is on the eastern side of the intersection. There's a bus stop here. What we're proposing to do with no constriction to the roadway width or anything is simply move the crosswalk to the other side of the intersection here. Like I said, it reduces the crossing distance by approximately 11 feet or so, and that reduces that exposure and that time that a pedestrian has a chance to interact with the vehicle.
Could you just clarify before we go much further?
Sure.
The ATP covers much more than this.
Absolutely.
Now you're talking about 4 specific areas. What are these 4 that you're talking about?
So these 4 areas, just to give you a thank you, I'll just give you a brief rundown. So it's South Main Street at Church Street. It's Monroe at Washington. It's State Street in front of the library, and then it's North Main Street. Essentially the segment from State Street up into about the railroad truss bridge.
Well, what I was trying to understand is what are we going to do with these 4 areas plus the other things that are also in the active transportation plan?
So the ATP, that's a good question. ATP is a comprehensive plan that looks at the entire transportation network within the town and the village, and that provides a levels of recommendation that range from spot locations, infrastructure improvements, physical improvements, to perhaps program changes, policy changes. So it encompasses much more. These 4 locations are more really spot specific. They really get down to the nuts and bolts of here are 4 locations that were identified through screening analysis, through crash analysis, through input that we received throughout the ATP process, public feedback and communication process. And so these locations, they're part and parcel of the whole plan itself. The plan is really, like I said, it's comprehensive. There's much more into that, but these locations really try to just focus on the village itself while maintaining that, the essence of what we're looking to achieve townwide. I don't know if that, I hope that answered your question.
I still don't completely understand. Are we going to do something different for these 4 areas than we are the rest of the village?
Well, each area is unique. There's no cookie cutter, and there's no one answer, one size fits all for everything. That's one thing we want to stress, is that each of these locations has contextual differences, and so each location has a different set of challenges and recommendations or improvements that might be involved. So just because it might, for example, something might work in front of Pittsburgh Plaza, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work in a village setting, in this village setting. And so these have been sort of massaged, looked at through a specific lens of the village, of the characteristics of the level of traffic, the speeds, high levels of pedestrian activity. So each area that we're looking at here tonight, as well as what you might read in the ATP, it's going to be different. But the goals are all the same. It's to improve safety, it's to enhance the quality of life, the livability, to make this, your bar is already set so high, this village bar is set so high. We want to take it a step further. And that's what we're hoping to do between this plan, these projects, as well as the active transportation plan.
So for these 4 areas, is this the phase 1 or is this the kind of final recommendations for these 4 areas?
These 4 areas, the recommendations, these are concepts, so these still have to go through one more round of New York State DOT review and approval. Once we've received approval on that, we can then move into preliminary and final engineering drawings. But these concepts, these locations, we are here tonight because of the result of many conversations between the fire department, between emergency response, between the DOT. So we've tried to work through some of these design challenges to get to a point where it truly does balance both the automobile, emergency responders, and of course the highest level pedestrian bicycles.
So this is the result of that compromise. This is phase 1, and we're going to consider additional.
This project, as you see here, this is this project alone. There may be projects that come down the line that are the result of perhaps the ATP, or there's projects that we didn't envision with the ATP that given that we have this framework, this plan that's set out to put a priority on the pedestrian, perhaps other projects might come down the road a little later. These plans, the idea behind village comprehensive plans, town comprehensive plans, the ATP, those are living documents. Those are documents that are meant to be adapted and to be reviewed from time to time. And so when new innovations come out, as the way of thinking changes, and we are at a point where, like you said, pedestrian and bicycle activity and the desire for a complete transportation network is getting better, it's increasing. This is where we are today.
David, I've got one question about this specific intersection, and it's a thought I've had since we visited this last. And one of the things I've noticed in watching the crossings that happen here is generally the primary path, and there's many people cross at this intersection, some people going to the bus stop and other things, but the primary path tends to be coming from the high school or the rec center down Washington towards the direction of the business district. And I'm wondering if by moving the crosswalk in that over on that side, people are going to not cross there because it's a little bit out of the way. You know what I'm saying? Because currently it's on the way to things, but now we've sort of moved it outside of the path. And that's just something I want you to think about.
Okay.
I don't need an answer tonight, but it's something in paying attention to movements there, in evaluating all the pros and cons that we've talked about through this discussion. That's one thing that I've noticed, that may be a slightly less convenient location for people than where it's currently located. So something to think about.
If they do that, they would cross at the light, which is a positive, yes?
No, because generally in urban things, what you want is you want to facilitate crossings every 300 feet. That really is what is the standard to create an urban walkable environment. And that's certainly for an economically successful business district, that certainly is part of our goal, and for walkable neighborhoods as well.
And you bring up the desire path, the desire line.
Yeah.
So pedestrians are generally walking on this side versus this side. People are going to walk where they want to walk.
We're making them go slightly out of the way
Correct, yeah.
to cross in that location. So that's something we did not discuss before, so I'm just going to mention that tonight.
Okay.
Just for clarification, because I'm trying to remember, it's been so long since we did this. The reason it was moved was because of the turning radiuses of the fire truck that had bounced them into oncoming traffic. And then they couldn't recorrect in time to be able to back into the firehouse? Is that the reason it was moved?
Yeah, to this intersection, we looked at doing a curb extension.
The curb extension,
Yeah,
that's right.
and so that was on this side, and that would pose a challenge for the turn radius and getting back into the
If you move
firehouse.
the crosswalk back over, would you have to do a curb extension because of that, the way the traffic flow is?
Well, if we moved it back, then at that stage remains an existing condition that there's, but we'll take a look at, given what you mentioned here, we'll take a look at what else can be done that can still meet the.
It might even help to just move it closer to the corner if we had a,
Yeah,
you know,
you haven't, yeah.
it's back from the turning radius, but if it was actually on the radius, if the crosswalk was located on the radius corner, it would have less impact on trees and it would take people less out of their path if you kept it on that side, so something to consider.
Yeah, and some of the little design nuances we'll get into once we do, we'll take survey if it's not available from DOT, we'll take survey of these locations to ensure that, yeah, if we can move it as close as possible, where it's more amenable to a pedestrian, then absolutely we will.
So what's the next, State Street and the library? Is that the next?
Yeah, I'll move to that.
What we'll do is we'll let David get through all 4 areas, then we'll open it up to questions. We'll go back through one by one, so save your questions on each area and we'll give everyone a chance to ask questions.
The third location this evening, as I said, was the State Street in front of the library. This location seeks to, currently the crosswalk is, it's in front of the library. We're looking to shift it a little bit. This location, we're also looking to install a curb extension on the north side. So again, currently the existing crossing distance is approximately 56 feet. We want to try to reduce that to approximately 38 feet. With that, with putting in this proposed curb extension, that it will be a raised fixture, we're also, from an aesthetic standpoint, proposing a flush median treatment in the middle of the roadway where there already is the two-way left turn lane and where the hatching starts to end or begin, depending on how you're approaching this location. That just enhances this crosswalk from a visual standpoint. People recognize that this must be a more prominent location, more higher activity location. We're also looking to enhance this location through installing rapid flashing beacons. If you've been down to Canandaigua, you'll see them along 332 there in pretty rapid succession. But that'll be the similar fixture that we're looking to conceptually recommend here, just to, again, enhance the pedestrian mobility. We know that this is this segment here from North Main down to the library is a pretty active segment. So anything we can do to enhance this, this is our, again, our third location. lastly, the North Main Street segment. This is beginning at State Street, Monroe, and will be moving northward. No significant infrastructure changes along this segment. We're looking at Port of Pittsford Park, the northernmost extent here. We're looking to recommend a new crosswalk, to install a new crosswalk. Currently, there is nothing out there right now. Bob mentioned that it's good practice for pedestrian crossings to be installed every 300 feet or so. Right now, there's no crossing from Main Street all the way up until Shane Place. So this breaks that up and provides an identifiable and a marked crossing location for pedestrian. We'll enhance this through advisory signs. No rapid flashing beacon here. One of the things you want to avoid is losing the effectiveness of those. So at this location, we're just looking to install the signage, but no enhancement through any sort of electronic feedback. This middle segment, we're moving across the bridge here at the Shane Place. We're looking to enhance the existing crosswalk at Shane Place through the use of those rapid flashing beacons, as well as installing a flush median treatment to again enhance the aesthetic appeal and value of this intersection. But no infrastructure changes or anything like that in the width of the road.
Go back to that last one,
Sure.
David. I just want to add to what you say. It really isn't about the aesthetic. It's increasing the visibility of that intersection. Right now, there's high traveling speeds, especially traveling north. People are cognizant that there's an intersection because they can't see it due to the hump of the bridge. The flashing beacons and the contrasting pavement are ways to give visual clues to oncoming drivers that there is a heavily used crosswalk here. And again, the flashing beacons would be similar to what you see on Main Street in the Canandaigua City Business District.
So those would be pedestrian triggered? And wouldn't flash all the time?
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, we did trail counts, we did crossing counts here, and so we definitely we have data to support why this location is requiring a little higher level enhancement feature. And I will go back and say that this stretch of road too also looks to restripe the roadway and provide a little more space on the shoulders for bicyclists to ride. Not taking away from anything between curb to curb for the vehicles, however, it's just rebalancing and redistributing some of that space so that it truly becomes a complete street, which we talk about extensively in the active transportation.
And that would also help give a more comfortable buffer to pedestrians on the sidewalk on the bridge, because the current existing sidewalk is substandard, and so if anyone has walked across that, you know it's an extremely uncomfortable experience because you have cars basically driving right at your ankles as you cross the bridge, and it's less than 5 feet wide, so it's not uncommon to see people stepping off the curb into the road to allow somebody with a baby carriage to get by.
You just mentioned the bicycle though. If they're coming down North Main Street on a bicycle, if they choose not to get onto the canal path, they're going to Shane Place, where do they go from there? Back out into the road?
If they're coming
If they're coming down North Main Street on a bicycle,
Yeah.
and they choose not to take Shane's Place or go onto the canal, they're forced back into traffic?
they would be up here for, yes, they would be up here. Yeah.
I just was looking at the plan, so.
Yeah.
I saw the sidewalk, or the bike lane.
Yeah, the bicyclists, so they would continue through this shoulder space here, and then they would have to mix with traffic here.
Where they mix with traffic on the north side of Shane Place, the northbound lane currently is extremely wide, it's over 14 feet wide.
Yeah.
So there is a significant amount of width there.
Yeah, I have that. We have that issue on it.
This is exactly what Bob said. That's what I was hoping to get to. This is a huge problem. Like you said, people, you get a baby carriage, and you get bicycles, people jump off into the road, then there's no delineated space for people to get around. And it's, the biggest problem I have is, for whatever reason, people punch the gas before they get to the bridge from those lights. And by the time they get over the crest, it's like dodgeball. And that's my biggest concern I came when I talked about traffic. I just had a beer tonight, but I'm telling you, because I go there every day, try pulling out of that place. You gotta punch it, because for whatever reason, they feel that now they've cleared the town, they gotta go 45, 50 miles an hour. And no one ever gets a ticket, and I'm not saying everybody in town needs a ticket, but I mean, there's gotta be a point. And I do think the flashing sign's great, but I don't know if people are gonna press the button. I don't know what the answer is, but nobody slows down, and for whatever reason, they come over the crest of the hill, they're flying down there.
Bob, the answer to that is there's no silver bullet here. None of these solutions is the entire answer.
Well, they're all good ideas, though.
But the real, what works is trying every solution. So part of it's enforcement, part of it's restriping the lanes to conform to current urban standards for appropriate urban lane designation. Part of it is lowering the speed limit to a speed limit that's appropriate in a walkable area. In many states like North Carolina, if you go into a central business district in a village or a city center, the speed limit is 20 miles per hour. New York State doesn't, vehicle and traffic law doesn't currently allow that. And one of the things that's happening around the country is municipalities and governments are scrambling to update their codes because this has become such a significant life safety issue. I just saw statistics, and the number of pedestrian vehicular accidents since 2008 has increased, I think it's by 25%, I think.
Yeah, I've charted here that shows.
And part of that's because we have larger, more powerful vehicles, and people's driving habits have changed. They always want to drive at highway speed, even in areas like the village where that's not safe or responsible.
Yeah, but like you say, the biggest problem there is they come over the crest and no one's expecting it. They don't expect people, they're just going so fast.
Yeah.
And I never see people get a ticket. I see people all the time doing 50 miles an hour down that road.
With regards to speeds, with regards to speeds, that's the idea too behind both the ATP, these projects, these locations, is to reduce that traveling speed, that prevailing. You want to reach a target speed, and when you look, there's a great chart, there's great stats out there that show vehicles traveling at 20 miles per hour versus one at 40. The survivability, the survivability factor is approximately 85% at 20 miles per hour. It drops down to approximately 10 at 40 miles per hour. And so, and then in the village and the location where the speeds are increasing, because of the crest, because of what you're saying, we want to slow those speeds down in whatever fashion we can.
Are we now discussing this one? Bob said to wait until the end to discuss it. Are we discussing?
Yeah,
this
you're right. You're absolutely right. Let's let.
Well, I do have if we're finished with that one, I have one more comment.
Okay.
That walkway, you see where you're gonna have the flashing lights?
Yeah.
You see where the cars come out Shane Place?
Yeah.
I can tell you from personal experience, you're either caught between the cars going 50 miles an hour up North Main, or you're caught by the cars who come out of Shane Place, come right up there, don't even look to see if there's a pedestrian crossing, and they pull out. So if you're a pedestrian right there, you've got both Shane Place and North Main trying to kill you when you cross. So unless you've got something that helps the pedestrian cross Shane, it's not going to be safe for people to walk. It isn't right now, it's really bad right there.
I was just gonna suggest, Bob, that they put another flasher for Shane Place that way.
Watch for pedestrians.
Or even a triggered flasher, because statistically, and if we go back to the data that you're using for the example, when those were first put in, they have documented this, when they were first put in, yeah, people were kind of antsy with them and didn't stop, but the more that they've been there, it's
Sunken in.
it's sunken in and people are obeying them. It's very rare that somebody goes through. Those triggered ones, as soon as they trigger, the cars stop. But it took a while for vehicles and for people to realize, that whole pattern going through, but it has improved and decreased their pedestrian issues down there.
I can believe it. Yeah, I can believe it. Now I can see the difference between a newly installed one and those. It's out in Honeylite. The one out in Honeylite that they installed, I pressed it and 3 vehicles ended up going through before I was able to cross, and it's still flashing. So versus Canandaigua, you press it and you start to see
That's
know
what-
it's brick.
That's why you don't want a continuous flash, because they become assigned to a continuous
Yeah.
flash.
But you can't do it against tickets out too. If you go over 35 miles an hour, they give you a ticket on top.
Yeah,
And that's what Bob alluded to, it's part of the comprehensive, it's the 5 E's, you know, you gotta look at enforcement, education, engineering, and we're really trying to do this in a comprehensive fashion.
There's a story about that building in the corner with the kitchen place. They tell us that 3 times cars have hit their building because they slowed for a pedestrian in the crosswalk, and somebody came behind them speeding up to go over the bridge, hit the car that was stopped, the car that was stopped then hits the building on the corner. That's happened 3 times, he said.
It's a challenging location, no matter how you look at it. And then, last one, even further north, this is in front of Pittsford Dairy, the Del Monte spot. We're looking to here, again, look at restriping the roadway to provide a little more space for cyclists on the shoulder space on the southbound, in the southbound direction. But at the same time, to install, we see it on a daily basis, especially during the summertime. People crossing here to get from the spa to Pittsford Dairy, tourism, you name it, you have bus stops. So here we're proposing a raised median with a mountable curb on the side. It's about a 45-degree angle. With that, we're providing a crosswalk, but we're enhancing it with the median treatment. And this is to not only provide a crossing space and a refuge space for pedestrians, but to also alert drivers that this is another high activity location for pedestrians. It's a traffic calming feature to help narrow up that visual field of view for a driver in the hopes to slow them down. It reduces the pedestrian crossing distance. For example, here, pedestrian, if they're crossing from east to west, they only have to look in one direction. They just have to look in the southbound direction, cross to the median, and then they can look in the northbound direction to make sure that there are vehicles and continue on. So it increases a number of opportunities that a pedestrian has to cross the roadway, and it maintains a more visible nature between the motorist and the pedestrian. We can get into specifics about the crosswalk or the cross-section design here, but these do meet the clearances for by fire code.
Could I maybe just address that real quick, David? The way I look at it, and I think the way the fire code official recognizes it as well, is those 4 parking spaces, especially the first 3, that reduces the space down to 14, not to 20, because most likely those 3 spaces or 4 spaces will be occupied, meaning that you're going from, like you said, you're going from 22, but with parking along here, you're actually reducing the passing to 15.
I have a suggestion, Brian, on that, that I think might address your concerns and still make this work.
Okay.
What if we just took these, we have these parking spaces X'd out.
Yep.
Got that. There really isn't a driveway here, this is a park. So we could take these 3 spaces, move them back here, or just get rid of them. And that way you've got the clear area.
Yeah, the concern is the first 3 and then the last one as well, because it just prevents.
This one here?
Correct, yeah, it just prevents a vehicle from being able to move to the right to allow the.
Well, I think
fire.
when they get in the engineering, I think we're flexible on which one of those are X'd out, so we meet those criteria. So I think we've got a solution that should address your concerns and still make this work, so we're still doing something effective.
yeah, the code
Yeah.
states that you have to have 20 feet of unimpeded.
Mhm.
So the 16, or the 14-foot width over to the parked cars is not 20 feet.
But it's
But if we X out the
If
parking.
you take the
you
parking
get the
spaces
20.
out, you're fine.
Right.
That also improves the ability for the bicyclists coming down from North Main, that they have a clear shot and they don't have to merge into traffic.
Yeah.
You can continue that bike lane all the way down.
We've looked at that, and we'll take another look at that for a bike lane, but the dimensioning might be a challenge.
But we could minimize the loss, because if like I said, this is not a real driveway, so if we could take, I think we could take all three of these and just slide them back here. And that way you'd have the clear area you need, you just have to tell us where this starts. And it's a detail that we can let them figure out, but I think
Sure.
we've got a solution that'll work for you.
Yeah, maybe
and
that
work for us.
median shortens up just a little bit, and then you can put your parking spaces.
Yep.
This is,
Yep.
like I said, this is, still
Yep.
conceptual.
Right here.
Oh, yes,
That park, there is a fire hydrant in there still, right?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a major source for the village. That's a 20-inch main. So
Yeah.
anything you can do to alleviate blocking that is a wonderful
Okay,
idea.
we'll consider that, because it's in a weird location, because
Yeah.
it's not right where it would normally would be, it's back in the park.
Yeah, it's a
Right.
stupid spot.
Right, it's a stupid spot.
Yes.
But that's because there's a 19-inch water main that runs along the old railroad that goes to the southeast, that's why
Is
it's
that the
there.
Del Monte on one side and what's on the other
This
side?
map, and this
Where
right
you
there,
park further
down here.
I think the important thing is that that would give them the ability to
So
allow
it's
cars
not-
to merge to the right and would not force emergency vehicles to hit that median, because the vertical incline on the median is a serious concern for emergency vehicles.
The key thing, I think, there's detail here that we're not gonna resolve tonight. But I think philosophically, having the lane striped narrow is important to addressing the speeds. Having the clearance there is important for the fire department, so you guys aren't impeded when you're responding. I think we can do both, and there's a level of detail that the concept drawings can't really cover tonight.
So it would be basically just they would have their 20 feet, right, because that's what's required by code.
Correct.
Yes,
Unimpeded-
ma'am, right? Yeah.
Unimpeded 20 feet on
Let's-
that side.
Let's not even look at parking. Right now, from curb to curb, you have 20 feet.
Okay.
And you have 20 feet on the opposite side as well.
The other side's fine, just the other southbound side is fine.
Yep. Okay, do you want to go back through and let's give first board questions, and then we'll open it up. And any of you that have any questions will be free to let David answer.
Can I ask, I have to go, I really
Yeah.
want to get my question in. So two things. I see a lot of first responders here, thank you so much. Maybe I can get that. But the second thing is, where can people see these plans so they can look at them? Are they available online somewhere?
They're posted on the village website.
They're posted on the village website, so,
Yeah.
and then where would they give, like you said, there's going to be another round of sort of input? Is that from the community or not from the community?
Well,
Or is it more from the DOT, you said?
We've got to go to the DOT. I think we're getting near the end. The trickiest area was this area, and we've been in dialogue with the emergency services group to try to come up with a solution that addresses their concerns and still provides an effective improvement for safety for pedestrians. So we're almost there. We certainly, we have more time because we're not starting construction tomorrow, and so your comments would be welcome.
Okay, great. And that would be addressed to,
The trustees.
You can send it to the village board, you can email us, you can drop a note here, you can stop it in person, you can call me on my cell phone, whatever you prefer to do.
and then the second thing is the flashing light thing. My kids always feel like that's the best protection for them when they're walking around the village. But you had also mentioned that you don't want to use too many because then it reduces its effectiveness. And so are those flashing ones right there? I can't figure out the yellow things.
no, these are just static advisory signs, not warning signs for pets.
So the only proposed ones are in front of the library?
The library and that chain place there, coming over, especially coming over the crest there.
That one, right. So after that static
Yes.
one.
Correct, yeah, we have the flashing beacons here, with an advanced sign here for drivers coming over the bridge, traveling northbound. So it's enhanced here with lights, and enhanced with lights in front of the library.
And is there like a limit to how many you can have until it reduces its effectiveness?
There really is no hard and fast rule for it, but it is generally known that if you get sign clutter for one, you try to reduce that in any way possible. But when it comes to these enhancements to any sort of indicator, you want to put them and make sure that they're effective. You can't say nearly every time. but that it's sort of, you go through it every day, you start to get trained that, oh, okay, it's just flashing, but maybe there's no one there. These, unfortunately, they take away that because it's actually by a pedestrian. But at the same time, you want to put them in areas that it's going to be prominent, it's going to be well-known, because there is that factor that people will get familiar with it, and there's perhaps an overuse of it. And that's what we try to avoid. And you know, we looked at these as we went through some iterations on what locations would be more of a priority than others, because again, we didn't want to lose that effectiveness. But again, as through public feedback, anything is welcome, so we can always go back and make sure everything's been addressed before we.
It just seems like one thing coming from each direction would make sense coming into this.
Well, I will say though, on this one, because of the median, a pedestrian is traveling or is crossing one lane at a time. And that's a huge factor. So for a driver, for instance, yeah, our hope and desire, because you do have people that are going to disregard anything on an everyday basis. But our hope is that this will generally reduce travel speeds. It's going to increase the awareness of pedestrians for drivers, that we're coming into an area where there quite possibly will be a pedestrian.
The other thing I would say is, in developing this plan, you know, we've talked to business owners, to residents. The location where the flashers are proposed, we have enough real estate where they can fit without creating visibility problems. For example, at Church Street and South Main Street, you're going to create visibility issues at the corners. There's not a lot of real estate there to put the flashers on. On Monroe Avenue, if we put flashers there, we'd be right next to someone's house, so we'd be flashing in someone's living room windows if we did it. So there's a lot of factors that we spent a lot of time. The amount of work that's been put into this isn't represented. As nice as the drawings are, it doesn't fully represent the amount of time that the volunteers on the subcommittee working on this, Renee, Elisa, and Brooke, and myself, have put into this, as well as certainly David Cruz and Steve Ferrani.
Can I just ask a question in regards to the raised meeting, because I know that that's a concern. In regards to a brick median, because wouldn't a brick median be plowable and be visible versus this is where it's going to bank up because they can't plow? You're going to have pedestrians where, you know, there's an issue with maintaining that. I mean, the guys are going to have to get out there and clear that sidewalk every time, you know, it gets snow and that type of thing. But wouldn't a brick median do the same purpose and it's plowable, maintainable?
Well, it's from a maintenance standpoint, from a plowability standpoint, sure, but from a visibility standpoint, you lose that vertical effect, and that's really the highest level that pedestrians look for. Any sort of raised, anything to raise the visibility of the pedestrian, and so that vertical effect is what does that. And medians that we see throughout the city, throughout the county, when you have them raised, they're seen throughout all seasons. In the wintertime, you plow over them, you're not going to have that effectiveness. You know, really the medians that we're putting, the flush median that we have on State Street, again, it does provide some highlight for a pedestrian, the awareness between a driver and pedestrian. It provides some aesthetic value, but the vertical effect is really what enhances and improves the safety factor for a pedestrian.
But don't you lose in the winter when you plow it? You can't plow the median, so it gets buried with snowbanks.
Right, so the State Street
How do they
median,
plow?
We'll have to take our sidewalk plow across the street there and plow through the median, but the dumping of the snow on the median would be just like what happens currently at the median with the roller bridge, no different.
and we can't, we're not looking to put in the vertical element on State Street.
I was just asking what the difference between the two was.
David, Is the reason that we don't have a public meeting in front of the library because of the clearance issues on
Yeah, that
the
was,
street?
that was a challenge there.
Because you would think that that would be really nice there too, but I understand the
There's a number, Bob, if you,
Yeah, what I was gonna say was North Main Street is the most challenging in some ways because the traveling speeds are highest, especially going north.
that's true.
And the width of the street is much wider than Monroe Avenue, State Street, or South Main Street.
So there's less need at the library because the road is different and the speed is different.
yeah, the density that you
The
feel.
psychology is
Exactly,
different.
the psychology, the density, the building, the wall that you feel on State Street.
Right.
Vehicle speeds are generally slower in that segment.
But
versus-
when you drive through State Street, there's so much going on all around you that intuitively we all, most of us, not all of us, but most of us tend to slow down.
I was just trying to understand the reason why.
Yeah.
The one by the library is in the exact same location as the current location, or is it moved?
We shifted it eastward a little bit. So right now, there's that curb recess. You'll see the curb, and I'll pull it up, but the,
It's in front of Pontillo's right now, and you're gonna put it closer to the driveway of the library.
yeah, so right now, the current crosswalk is on, this is your curb return here. The crosswalk is right here. We're looking to shift it eastward, install this extension here to further reduce that crossing distance, and just get pedestrians across here.
But you'll leave the South Street crossing that is determined by the lights the same, so people will naturally skip the South Street crossing where the lights are and go up there where they can cross without waiting.
Well,
for
there
that
still is a pedestrian light at
Yeah.
South Street, so if you're willing to wait for that stoplight, which is one of the longest in Monroe County, you can still safely cross there.
But everybody will go to this instead, so unless you can do something at South Street.
Well, South Street, like the mayor said, we already have pedestrian crossings there for crosswalk countdown signals. There's, beyond that, we're not looking to, that would, first of all, that's outside of the realm of this project, but the pedestrian countdown signals actually provides for pedestrian, the best crossing opportunity.
Why is it outside the scope of the project? It's in the village.
It is, ma'am, but this project itself, looked at these four
You're
locations.
using the word project, evidently there's something I'm not understanding.
So the
You're talking about applying for the grant?
When
Is that what we're
we
talking
got
about?
funding from Senator Rich Funky, and what we did is we talked to the Active Transportation Planning Committee, and we tried to identify the highest priority achievable items that we could make a difference in the village to improve walkability around the core. The four corners were kind of stuck with a light in DOT, so we didn't try to crack that nut with this one. But these were areas, and because there was a recent hit and run on Church Street at the Church Street crosswalk, these were the most heavily used crossing areas in the village where we thought improvements would make the biggest tangible difference to increasing the safety of our community. So we went to Senator Rich Funky, had a proposal, we had an estimate of costs that SRS helped us develop, and we achieved funding. So we actually have funding to move ahead with this project, which really is sort of like phase one, unofficially, of the active transportation plan. We are currently working on other improvements, and we don't have a design yet, but SRF is working on suggested improvements for South Street. And that project, we'll have public meetings on that as that moves forward. We're not at that point yet.
To add to what Bob was saying, to be clear, we have the grant, but we have to come up with the money to pay for it, and then we get reimbursed. So whether that's
There's a cash flow issue.
yeah, whether we save the money and do it, whether we raise money in a bond, all kinds of ways. That's our job to try and figure that out so we can get.
That's why it's part of our budget.
And the payment could be anywhere. Getting paid back could be anywhere, up to a few years. So we really have to figure it out.
Getting back to this stuff, if they eliminated this crosswalk though, we would be in the same problem that we had before with everybody just
Crossing
crossing
everywhere.
everywhere, so
Right.
they wouldn't use the South Street.
This makes it more predictable because instead of darting between cars, the people are crossing at a visible place that drivers can anticipate.
Okay. Have you had all of your questions answered, Kelly? I know that there was some
The only,
changes made.
it wasn't my question, it was the fire department, had inquired in regards to the,
Okay.
width that they needed in regards to, the parking, since the vehicles are gonna be moved, it will comply with code, giving that 20 feet. I know that the ambulance has a concern, and the fire department has a concern also regarding vertical displacement by hitting a median. And I don't know how that's gonna be affected by removing those parking spaces. The vehicles will be able to yield the right of way, and you should be able to get by them without having to hit that median.
So long as traffic can move through, that's okay.
Right.
I'm concerned though, with that raised median in the winter time, if we do have snow accumulation, even though it's a raised and theoretically mountable median, it will not be a usable space. So we'll need to be able to maintain traffic flow that's effective.
But I think eliminating those parking spaces will allow for vehicular traffic, and
Agreed,
that median shouldn't become an issue for you guys, correct?
agreed.
I don't think the median that exists now has ever really been an issue for you, has it, at the bridge?
It creates a challenge for sure. I mean, there's times when the traffic does back up, we unfortunately have to go into the oncoming.
Well, there's also a stoplight there,
Right.
which we don't have here,
Right.
so I don't think that's,
That adds to the
yeah, right, right,
complexity of it.
right.
Has there ever been talk about preempting that signal?
We do not have that technology. I don't think the ambulance does either.
We wouldn't use it because there are significant traffic studies which indicate the use of that by the ambulance incurs accidents. We're much more likely to be broadsided as the ambulance moves through. So we would encourage all of our drivers to reach that light and stop regardless, and then proceed through for the safety of everyone involved.
Understood. Makes sense.
But we will, as we fine tune these in construction, we will be consulting with the emergency services group to make sure that everybody's comfortable with where we are in the final design. Okay? Any other questions? Yeah, I see some hands. Go ahead.
One quick one. I own the jump pad on the canal, and she runs the
Sand patch.
sand patch that brings in jobs and tourists to your town. We don't want anyone to get run over, and it'd be bad. So the one thing that we would like to see, you put a great little sign where the wine bar is, pedestrian crossing in the middle of the road. You restripe the little crossing there next to that concrete silo. You really need to put a pedestrian crossing there, a little sign on it.
Really helpful.
I concur with you because I've crossed there myself, and it also helps slow people down as they get towards, it
And
just
they got a
slows
lot
the
of little
drivers
kids
down.
and little carriages, people on that, it's just, it's a
I
crap.
concur. Okay, other questions? Yes.
Just one more comment on the flashers. I've heard what you said. I travel Canandaigua quite a bit, and to me, when you see that line of all of them there, some flashing, some not, it tells you you're going into a pedestrian area and helps slow people down overall. My concern about having some with flashers and some not, particularly on the same road, like North Main Street, people are gonna think, if it's flashing, I stop. If it's not flashing, I don't stop. So they don't see a flashing light, like the ones that don't have them, it may have the opposite effect versus putting a row of them that are flashing. I hear what you're saying about the other areas, but on North Main, we don't have the houses and you have the space.
No, that's a good point. There's also a level of predictability and consistency with what other communities do too at the same time. And so you also don't want to train that, okay, so if you're a tourist and you go to Canandaigua, see the flashers, that every community is going to have a flasher. And so, when you do come upon a sign, a static sign, and you just don't see, you just go through and you just disregard the pedestrian to be there. That's where not using them as a blanket policy everywhere reinforces that if this is at a location and you see it on, then you should stop. You have to stop. You have to stop for the pedestrian.
This
There is,
point seems very valid, though.
there,
If you're trying to, one of our biggest challenges is educating the cars that drive through. Never stop, just drive through. and it makes an impression. If we have those pedestrian crossing signs, and we have one in a 3-block area, I don't think it makes the same impression as if every 2 blocks there's a crosswalk, and every 2 blocks we've got one of those signs. So what he said about if you've got a lot of them, it makes it very obvious to the people coming in that this is a pedestrian area, there's something different. Whereas a one single flasher is, I don't think makes the same impression. Same way as with those stanchions that we have saying pedestrian crossing. There's one, they kind of ignore it.
And I'm not going to disagree with that wholeheartedly. There is some ability to do that, for sure. But I will say that DOT has also looked at these. We've talked with them about lighting up or enhancing all these pedestrian crossing signs with some sort of flashing beacon, and they've even responded based on their work that they've done and studies that they've seen, that they didn't want to see a flashing beacon at all at these locations. So I get it, and 332 is also their road as well. Again, we'll go back and take a look, and we'll have another conversation with DOT. But in experience in the work that we've seen, some of the stuff we've seen, our goal is to not, again, increase that sign clutter, because drivers are already having to look out for so many other signs on the roadway. The idea, the essence for this plan, the active transportation plan, and this village is that we want it to be a pedestrian village, really first and foremost, that vehicles, we want to rebalance it. We want to rebalance the transportation system. Vehicles are always going to be there, but at the same time, you're driving around, vehicles are a 2,500-pound object versus a 150-pound individual protection. And so the idea is that if we create this pedestrian enhanced environment through projects like this and others that are outside of, as the mayor said, this is sort of phase 1. The active transportation plan really does try to get to elevate that level of livability and quality of life here. The hope is that the mindset begins to change, that pedestrians are, as a driver, you're aware that pedestrians could be, this is an active community, especially during the summertime. In the greatest pedestrian, in the greatest cities and some of the greatest communities that you'll see as best practices, almost less signage is better, because vehicles know that pedestrians are here. Pedestrians of vehicles are still traveling around, but everyone understands each other, everyone's aware of each other, and that's what we're trying to get to.
And we're using other tools too. For years we've been aggressive with restoring street trees, because studies have shown that it's what the driver perceives as the width of the space of the street that affects how they drive. And the narrower we can make it feel, and that's what trees do, is they actually create a canopy that encloses the street, makes drivers slow down. So our streets are somewhat different from Canandaigua. Canandaigua, believe it or not, has more traffic than we do on their main street. They also have a much wider main street, so their challenges are slightly different. This, like David said, it's not one size fits all, and we've tried to customize each solution, incorporating the emergency safety group's concerns with other things we know about pedestrian movements and the needs of our community. So it's quite a balancing test. Probably nothing is perfect, and once we have these things implemented, if we need to make changes, we'll change them as other communities have done when they tried things that didn't work or needed to be tweaked. We certainly have the ability to do that here.
And once we have a plan, then we will have public hearings. Once we have
We'll continue to have public dialogue as we move forward, both with this plan as well as other elements of the active transportation plan. We do have a final draft of the active transportation plan that's available on our website. Please review it. With the town, we will, in the next few months, be scheduling the public hearing for adoption of that plan. Your comments are welcome now and at the public hearing.
Bob, if I could just make one suggestion, because as we all know, this code was thrown at us last year, and I had to do a lot of research to come up to speed to find out what's being done in other communities to support the emergency services.
Yep.
But one of the things that was identified, and it was just brought up as far as education, what a lot of the communities are finding is pedestrian education also at the crosswalks. A lot of communities are putting signs in because we're a technology age now and people have their earphones in or are looking at their cell phones, that type of thing, to encourage the pedestrians to look up or encourage the pedestrians to make sure the vehicle has yielded before you step out.
Or get off their phone.
We understand, we understand that the vehicle has to yield the right of way to the pedestrian, but we also want to encourage the pedestrians to make sure that they have the right of way before such time as they step out into that crosswalk. So not necessarily road signage, which would be a distraction to the drivers, but possibly pedestrian signage at the crosswalks to encourage people to look before you leap, type of situation. So, and that is minimal signage at those crosswalks, just as reminders for them.
And like I said before, it's every tool, not one tool,
Yeah.
but every tool.
And Canandaigua has I saw the old stencils, they're starting to wear off now, but on the pavement,
Look up.
Yep.
Any other questions before we move on? Thank you, everyone, for coming in.
I don't think we've gone through all the slides here.
What's that?
I don't believe we went through all the slides. We still are going to redo, which one?
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
the Port of Pittsburgh, or,
Okay,
okay.
did we cover that? I thought we did, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but if there's questions for those.
so I guess, David, right off the bat, I noticed that in this drawing compared to the Google Earth imagery, that the turning lane, the southbound left-hand turning lane has significantly been reduced.
The storage length, yeah.
Yeah, so right now it currently starts at the bridge, and now that's being reduced. Do you foresee now traffic backing up farther because you're reducing the storage space, if you will, of vehicles that are wanting to turn left? And then how does that affect?
That we're not shortening the lane, they can still, even though the crosswalk is there, we're not shortening the turning lane at all. So they'll still be able to get into the turning lane where they do now, there should be no difference.
Bob, if I may, let me just show you this Google image search. So if you look here, you've got at the bridge, so it starts right here at the bridge. So this is all turning lane. Now, if you look at this image here, you're coming here to the village hall. So this area, this space right here is now changed, so this left-hand turning lane has been reduced.
No, this is something we went over with DOT, and you will still be able to enter into the turning lane on the north side of the crosswalk. You'll be able to drive through the crosswalk just like you can in other areas where the crosswalk crosses the turning lane, obviously, but we're not shortening the turning lane at all. The transition into it will remain exactly where it is right now.
Now again, this might be a visual, we can clean this up, but the effect of that turning lane will not be diminished in any way. That we're not, and that DOT was very clear that they didn't want to see this turning lane be impacted in any sort of.
That's right, so we left it exactly the same.
But I mean, David, you understand that
Oh, I
it
do.
looks differently than what currently is out there.
Understood, yes. There is a visual difference, but that's something that we can clean up here that, like the mayor alluded to, the Webster, for example, I know that along coming into the Four Corners some years ago, they had a crosswalk that was, again, it was pulled back from their signalized intersection a bit, but it went right through the turn lane. They've since moved it back a little, but there are other communities where you do see, just because of site characteristics and site challenges, that you will have a crosswalk that crosses the turn lane itself. So that we can clean up, and that's more of a paint and striping issue that once we get the final or preliminary and final drawings, we can clean that up.
I have a question about why it's where it is. It would be very convenient if you live to the north of the village, or in the northern part of the village, to take a crosswalk there, but if you live where most of the residents live, which is south of that area, you really think people who are coming to the village hall are going to walk up there and then go back again?
Well,
Before
what
they
we
cross the
see,
street?
what we see is we see a lot of people crossing right here to get to the Port of Pittsburgh Park, especially in the summer. And that's why this is here. And originally, we had the crosswalk located further to the north, and at DOT's insistence, further to the south, we moved it to the north at the with the guidance of DOT.
So those of us, either we're going to have to traverse the four corners, which most people like to avoid right now for walking. We'll have to cross at the four corners, otherwise go way past the village and then cross over and backtrack.
And the hope is that we provide these more recognized, formalized crossing points, because right now, the crossing distance is, I think, greater than 800 feet or so between the State Street intersection here and then your next closest one, which is Shane
Well,
Place.
we're 300 feet from the four corners.
I could scale it off here for you. You know, we're trying to get to about 300 feet with this crosswalk here. We're trying to cut that distance in half to at least make it a little more amenable to those pedestrians, given that we've heard and we've seen pedestrians using this and crossing at this location already.
Okay, other questions, comments?
Just one comment, before it goes to state DOT, can we have one opportunity to take a look at it?
Sure. Do you have these drawings, Ryan?
Oh, yeah, we do.
Okay.
But it sounds like there's gonna be some modifications or cleaning up, as you said. Is that correct?
There certainly could be, as I said, these are conceptual. If there's a final.
We'll get, as we get updated drawings, we will funnel them to you. So
Yeah, I
we have everything that we have.
Yeah, like regarding
Same-
the North Main parking spots and everything, so we can just have.
We'll make sure that
Yeah,
it's,
that's a new comment, so yeah, obviously we'll make sure that that's.
And then again, Monroe at Washington, any type of changes.
the other thing we'll want your input on is because obviously around the fire hydrant that Tim pointed out, we want to make sure that we have adequate clearance, and so you have the access that you need there. Okay. Okay, anybody else? We have other items on our agenda, so we'd like to move on. So we're going to take a 2-minute recess, and then we're going to reconvene. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, David. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Rick Fossey, and thank you, Lisa Plummer. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy, Kelly. Enjoy. Okay, calling the meeting to order. Jerry Davenport, welcome again. Around the village, Sherry, what's going on? Hey, high five on that.
All five a lot of people. Twice a year, I think last year, if there was an issue, if I did that survey, what happened last year is I ended up starting another tour in the Grove Parks. So I did not revisit adding a day in Pittsburgh, but I would like to have the flexibility of that option.
So moved.
This is the food tours?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, that looks great.
And I heard you actually have done one of the tours
I
and
did.
gave some of the spiel or the narrative.
I did, in fact,
It's very nice.
I.
Give any tips?
No, I had Jack with me.
Oh, no. So, but it's pretty great. The feedback is phenomenal, as I said. I'm just thrilled to hopefully contribute to vitality of the people coming and thank you. I tell people, you know, we're trying to too, we've got time for shopping and we're back to any of these places. And so I'm just.
Nice event, and I'm glad it's continuing, because I think it enhances everything that we have here. And I will make a motion to approve your application for 2019 with the provision of giving you the alternative of adding an extra day.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you very much.
I have one final question for you.
Sure.
But besides the approval of this, is there anything we can do to help?
Just help spread the word. I mean, it's really, I'm very grateful that now it's kind of popular. And I think people come back on Pittsburgh tour more than once because they keep bringing more friends or family because, you know, the stops and the area is so unique. So, you know, people love to eat, thank God. But I appreciate you asking. I mean, if you have any outlets that I can look into, whether it's social media or participating groups or
I have an
whatever.
idea. I would suggest that you talk to Todd Long and get permission to take the tours, just drive them up in the elevator in Grace.
Actually, we do that.
Oh, you do
We
that?
do that.
Because
Yes.
that's phenomenal. Good.
I have spoken with our Thursday tour goes up in the elevator.
Yep, great.
And actually Beverly
Mhm.
and
Yep.
it's
Al.
Al.
Mhm.
They're the sweetest people. And
Sure.
one time they greeted our guests and they let the guests go out on the patio. Oh, really? So I'm going to say, and they're very, very sweet. We only take the Thursday tour there, but we don't advertise that. Somebody came on the Saturday tour and they were disappointed because they didn't get to go in the elevator. How did they even know to go in the elevator?
Everybody who does that is always involved.
It's really cool. So thank you all, and if you haven't been on the tour, you know.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Good seeing you, Sherry.
Okay,
Good night.
you too. Thanks.
Next, we have the 2019 application for the town of Pittsburgh for Paddle and Pour, the Memorial Day Parade, and the Food Truck and Music Festival.
I would like to move that we approve those with the conditions that we have placed previously, and most especially, make a point of the cleanup after the events that the county, Pittsburgh DPW is, participates.
Takes responsibility.
Takes responsibility for the cleanup afterwards.
And I just also mentioned there's a full events schedule on page 3. We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor? Aye. Next item we have is the Cornhill Navigation. Is somebody here from Cornhill? Yes. Oh, there you are. Welcome. Hi. Hi, come on up. Hi, Leslie. Sean. LJ, nice to meet you. Have a seat. Have a seat.
JJ retired? Or JJ retired? I'll let JJ
So anything different for 2019?
No, we're already saying about basic things.
Okay.
Last year, we didn't quite have the record, we didn't feel. We are the same day, so program now. At least 3 trips a day. Lots of field trips.
Can we get a little
carried 14,771 gallons.
Not bad.
So, year before, we had a couple hundred more. So, it was just really hot.
Yeah, the weather is.
It was hot.
It was so hot.
It's like our October weather, the weather.
So we'll have to talk about the nature.
You guys appreciate So that was a question that we were like,
I spoke to Frank Dodson.
right, and Fred.
Oh, excuse me, yeah, excuse me in the back of the room? Could we
Yeah, he's on the hallway. I'll close the doors.
close the door? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it turns out, I wasn't aware of it because I never, no, it was never did it. Whatever, the last, well, yeah, there's some old ones out there, like at least back before 2008, so we've had some long-standing arrangements for $1 a year.
Yes, okay. $1 a year, that's a good price.
We're gonna raise it because that's about our budget.
Do you have a copy of that recently?
I don't. We can search and see if we have one. We could, I'm sure we could contact RG&E, I'm sure they have one. But I don't have one with me because
Yeah,
we have not.
it'd be interesting if
Well,
you
you-
could provide a copy of that.
So we have a storeroom for old files.
I don't know.
Just so you know, the reason we're asking for that is we're going through our own negotiation with
Yeah, I
our
understand.
JV, so it's
And
helpful
you
to.
can't
It's
give
just
out
helpful
things that
to,
aren't yours.
right, and we just want to see how you're structured, it may give some insight into how ours will be.
Yeah, so we'll be happy to, it'd be nice to have all the little ducks in a row.
Okay, I would make a motion to approve the non-municipal use permit for Cornhill Navigation for the 2019 summer season in accordance with the same provisions we issued in 2018.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. You approve?
Fabulous.
See you on the water.
We will go fish for that, we'll go fish for the agreement and see.
Before you
Yes,
go,
if you do find it, if you can just
We are always around, so it's a pretty easy
yeah,
thing to
and
get.
you can just leave it off at the village hall.
Yeah, that's pretty easy for us.
before you go, can I ask you the same question? But besides this, is there anything you can do to help your business?
Well, I mean, the village has always been a good friend and a good partner with us. As Bob said, we would really love to have maybe a sign so that, because the way the buildings are, they're a shame place. I'm always grabbing toddlers by the scruff of their necks and saving people from making that crossing while they're enjoying, ice cream or coffee or whatever.
That we can do. That we can. Do you have a copy of the conditions of your permit last year?
I did, yeah.
Okay,
In fact,
okay.
I filed that with you so that'd be
Okay.
easier.
Okay. All right. I guess you're well prepared. Thank you very much.
All right.
All right. Bob,
Okay, please do, raise it anytime. Yes.
I did have one quick comment. We will be doing a canal cleanup again this year, part of Clean Sweep. So,
April 27th, Saturday morning.
if you can give us a reminder email, I'm sure some of us will be there.
that'd be great. We had some
We'll
folks
do
last year.
that on our Facebook page too, if you send us.
We will do that. Terrific.
That'd be
Where
great.
would you like it sent?
Our Facebook?
Village.
Village page.
Right, you don't know what's what?
Make sure you like us.
Yeah, we clean up all the parking lots. We had last year so many volunteers, we sent them to every parking lot, both sides of the canal, all the way down the lock.
Wonderful.
All right.
Bob, come on up. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Before I forget, let me do things, the reminder, the outhouses, the two, which is totally awesome. If we don't do them quick, like in April 1st, and the poor people have nowhere to go to potty. It's a disaster.
We'll get them
First
on.
race day, April 10th, April 1st, April 8th, and it's like mob, and you can just imagine it. There's no.
Because everybody wants to be outside.
Yeah, but
You're
these are
absolutely right.
bikers, I mean, it's inhumane, so just,
Yeah.
please, just instead of waiting until the scheduled time, we all know it's gonna happen one day, rainfall.
We'll make sure sometime in April that we'll have them out there even if the weather
Thank you
stinks.
so much.
Yep. Okay, you are coming for, is it the benches? Is it-
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to approve Bob Amos benches exactly like in 2018.
And I painted all the yellow metal things again.
Thank you, thank you.
Same conditions.
Same conditions.
Somebody stole one of my benches, so I could find them.
Okay, so
Same ones.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
You're approved.
Thanks, guys, have a great night.
You too.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Serious game.
Aye.
We're gonna try to do that too.
Thank God there's YouTube TV to save it.
Yep. Okay, next item we received this letter from the National Council for Traditional Folk that are looking for a venue to have a folk festival. I don't know much about this. I wondered if somebody would like to investigate this.
It was, was it 100,000 tourists? It was a big, yeah, they bring in
It's a big deal. I don't
100,000.
know if it's feasible. We're gonna have to talk to them and get a contact and find out. If somebody would, if you wanna take that, Lily, that's awesome.
I can't see how we could ever have an event that brings 100,000 people into Pittsburgh Village.
Oh, maybe I'll call the town and see if we can't come up with something.
I know Fairport Canal Days, they've had 100,000 people for, so that would be the closest thing. But I agree, that's a little big. I think 10,000 is about the most we've ever done.
So I don't mean to
No.
be negative, I just, that's what the applications.
No, but I think we should still investigate it
Sure,
and see if
fair
there's any feasibility. I don't think we're slated for 100,000 people, I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, building inspector's report. Steve, are you still there?
I don't think there's a report.
Okay, because he did it last week, so we're good with that. Jeff, do you have anything?
Nothing new from last week.
Is there anything else we need you here for tonight? I think we can let you go home and have some cake and watch the Syracuse game.
Did
Do I have to watch the circuit game if I leave?
No.
Did we need him for discussion?
What's the cake for?
Wow, why is it okay?
What's the cake?
I don't know, I'll have cake.
So you go home and have your cake too.
Exactly.
Say recipes.
Did we need him for
I think we
discussion?
have a cake at home.
I think Dan wants to ask a
It's okay.
question.
You
I'm
guys
sorry.
finish up. It's
Go,
okay.
Dan, you had a question, go ahead. You
So,
had-
did we need him for discussion on the summer hours of the DPW?
If anything, that would be a labor issue.
We've already talked about
That's
that.
different.
We have that covered.
I think we've got all the
We have
answers.
that covered.
You are excused, Jeff?
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Jeff.
Everybody have a great night.
thank you. Treasurer's report, I did review the vouchers earlier today.
Okay, and nothing in particular in the vouchers yet needs a call out, so, 13,297.56 for approval.
Do we have a motion to approve the bills?
Can I ask something, Mary, do we have a write-up for all those items over $2,000?
Does it sell us?
Are you looking for something in particular? I'm gonna say no at the moment.
Integrated system,
No, I don't have it, but I will make sure that we do. I've got
yeah, we should have a write-up there. Dan, the other one, for your information, we don't need them for the Excellus bills and for the RG&E bills, but we do need them for these kinds of exceptions, these kinds of things.
I don't see anything over 1,000 besides the Excel stuff. In
Are
this
you-
one.
What number are you looking at? 'Cause I'm not seeing it.
Mary, 506.
You're looking at the wrong one.
Yeah. This is today's, they're all low for Excel.
That's good. Are you, does everybody have one that says 13,297, or are we somehow got confused? I apologize, because this is, not my hand.
No,
Oh, there's, okay. So I just need a motion for approval.
Memorize.
I don't know anything about it.
So moved.
It's not on the agenda.
All right, DK.
Was it?
Now, can I ask a question about the prior
Yeah,
bill?
well, wait,
Alright.
one second, I just need a second and then I'll vote.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll take care of it.
Okay, and I'll vote
Aye.
yes?
Aye.
Okay?
Aye,
All right, it's done with me. Go back.
minutes?
Go back. No, hang
No, no,
There's
no,
a
no,
question
sorry.
on the table there.
Sorry.
Last week, we did not approve a bill from the Zoglin Group because we had a question. And that bill was not paid. And I don't think the question has been answered.
I have not received a response from Leanne or anybody regarding.
I did send
For the
a
16
new email
hours.
to Dan Spitzer with another request.
It was,
It was
No.
for Mindy.
this is a Mindy
This
question.
is about the Zoglin Group,
Yeah.
January 3rd. There's a notation on their bill, attend attorney-client session regarding Nano Brewery. Attend special meeting regarding Nano Brewery, conference with client and trustee regarding PZBA matters, 4.5 hours. Now, it's covered under their flat charge, but I have a question, 4.5 hours, and who was the trustee who was there? And what happened? We still don't have an answer for that.
That wasn't me.
Don't know, so who is tasked with asking?
It was
Is that
Bob's
me?
task.
I think
Bob was
Debbie?
the-
I saw Mindy the other night. I have another question for Mindy. Because in talking to Susan Loda told me that the PZBA appears to be about to deny a LWRP certificate of consistency for 75 Monroe. So I want to make sure that Mindy's estimate has considered that in her estimate for 2019, because I don't want to be stuck on that. If there's any, I don't know if there's any legal implications, but I'm tracking that one down. So I will add this question to my phone call to Mindy. I just wanted to update you that I did send an email to Dan Spitzer. He responded. I should be getting, hopefully before tomorrow, an estimate on projected Hodgson Russ legal costs. I also talked to Jeff. Jeff said that his estimate of his budgeted numbers for the APRB were based on last year, and it included some outside meeting consultation, but it did not include potential litigation. There is no pending litigation anticipated unless something unusual happens, but you asked me that question and that was Jeff's response.
So Bob, there's a couple things to unpack in there. One is, are you then going to talk to Mindy about this specific charge
Yes.
when you talk to Mindy, or do you want me to handle that? I'm happy to do it.
Either way, I'm gonna call her anyway, so it's sufficient for me to do it. If you wanna do it, you can.
No. If you're talking to her and you've got this one, great. The second thing that when you talk next to Dan, will you make sure to ask him, we have not received a bill from Hudson Russ since, I wanna say September. And from a cash flow perspective.
Okay, what's our
Just-
liability? Yeah.
Well, just when's it coming? Because they've definitely done a lot of work.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
I thought it was usually quarterly, and we're well beyond a quarter.
He's not as consistent about quarterly or monthly, kind of like whenever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then
Thank
they
you,
then they get really big, and we get hit with a cash flow situation.
And then we have the prices.
Yep.
Yep. Okay,
we received a proposal to render legal services from the Zoglin Group dated February 11th. Have we signed that? Have we
not yet,
acted on that?
not yet. It doesn't become effective until our next fiscal year anyway.
I think maybe the board should go over this proposal. I'm still concerned about how much it's costing us.
I would suggest we do that in the budget meeting.
Yes.
Okay, maybe tomorrow night, or Thursday, night, excuse me, Thursday. Okay.
My last question, excuse me.
Yeah.
Last week, we looked at the Tai Lin proposal. Did we sign that?
Steve was gonna look
This
into
was
it.
to,
No, it was for the
we,
brewery,
yes, we
There was
thought our
that
building
sign.
inspector could handle that.
yes.
Steve was gonna look into it, see if they did work, if not, he was going to do the work himself. Yeah, because when I talked to Steve, he thought that all the information on this was already gone to them,
I believe that is correct, but I.
but there was no signed contract. Ah, there's
No.
Steve.
There's Steve.
Come on, Steve. I heard my name mentioned.
Yeah.
Brewery.
That's good, you're such a good
What
guy.
happened with the T.Y. Lynn brewery stuff? Do we know?
Well, here's the, right, it was presented to me earlier that this could become a kind of an issue that it depends on how they, I guess they take it. The brewery may want to turn this back on the village as far as the cost of that. And that's something I guess somebody needs to take a look at. As that in part-time, doing something of that along with everything else that, you know, the requirements is almost impossible. But I don't know that you can delay it till anything else happens, you know, but I was informed earlier today that more than likely the brewery's going to balk on paying that and turn it back on the village because they're gonna say it's really not their fault that you have to use T.Y. Lynn. So I don't know where that leaves.
It doesn't, whatever our costs are, here's the response to that. And you could ask Jeff, but this is what Jeff is going to tell you anyway. We may have different situations. We have to, when we are without building inspector, it costs us more.
Correct.
Or without full-time building inspector. We have a legal right, and it's in our code, that we can charge those costs back.
Okay.
So that's what we should do. And it doesn't matter. That's irrelevant, because it's still a cost. Our costs vary, and whatever the costs are, if we use Bergman versus T.Y. Lynn, there may be a different cost, but we still have a right, whatever those costs are, we still have a legal right to charge them back to the applicant.
Right, you just put it into the permit costs, because
That's
ultimately
right.
I'd be the one that still would issue the permit, even though T.Y. Lynn's doing all of the legwork on the other end.
Right.
But whatever the cost is, that we could put it into the permit.
Correct. We don't issue the permit until we get reimbursed for the cost. Right. We can talk to Jeff and we can formalize that, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct on all of that.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
All right.
That's all I have.
Minutes on February 19th are very short. I think we can approve them.
No, the challenge was they were just a bunch of paper that Kara had given us. They were just notes on the code.
Okay.
So the
I'm
question
totally
is,
unfamiliar, but I'll just go
it
with
was in the
right.
packet. So, so we had the minutes, right?
Mhm.
But all the notes that she had taken in the draft,
Yeah.
I'm not sure anything got done with those. So we have to figure that out. So this was Kara's, these were all Kara's notes.
Oh.
So essentially, those haven't been written up.
Yeah,
So somehow we need to what I would say, Dan, since you have them there, maybe we should just email them to Molly.
Just
Yeah.
as they are.
Just as they are, and we're transmitting the comments to her, just so she may have the information.
And these are pretty, I mean, they're kind of coded, so.
Yeah, they're not totally actionable.
What's
But
it?
Molly,
They were already sent to Molly by Kara.
Oh, so Kara already sent them to Molly?
That morning, I think she did it
Yeah.
the day that we.
Even though they're coded, I think Molly should be pretty facile at it in terms
So
of.
maybe we just hold these as the code minutes for,
I would say so.
and we can.
And this is certainly adequate to describe what was done here. So I would, no, I can't. But someone else make a motion to approve these, I have to abstain.
I will make the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. Okay, next item, and I believe this time, because we are not talking about the performance of a specific employee, but we are talking about the performance of the crew in a policy, this is not going to be an executive session issue. And so the discussion would be on summer hours. So
thought we were gonna go into executive session.
I don't think we can, Frank, because this isn't a specific employee.
Well, I talked to Jeff yesterday, he said that we can, but if we were to vote on it, then we'd have to come back out.
It's just
But
the same information.
I defer to you.
I
It doesn't matter, I'm already
Yeah,
making a
okay, okay, go ahead. Frank, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Last meeting, I sent you some information. We received a memo from,
Okay?
we received a memo from the DPW employees regarding a reinstatement of summer hours. History, when we negotiated the contract 3 years ago, we were concerned that we weren't getting the productivity that we wanted, and so we ceased summer hours. Since then, then we received this memo from the employee, from the DPW staff, requesting that we reinstate summer hours a little more than what they had the last time. They were asking for summer hours to begin on May 1st and to end on October 1st. Summer hours mean the staff works from 6 a.m. to 3:30 Monday through Thursday, and Friday they work 7 a.m. to 11. And so they're requesting that we reinstate summer hours the way they're asking it. And last week, I provided you all with the information, and I did not express an opinion until I heard from everyone. I have had conversations with 6 village DPW superintendents and 1 town supervisor. So I've received their input about how successful they have been with summer hours. Based on that information, based on the current management of our DPW and the performance of our DPW, which has been very good, I'm ready to recommend that we reinstate summer hours, but not as requested. What I am recommending is that we have summer hours from May 31st to August 30th, with the requirement that one person must be present until 3:30 on Fridays to answer calls. That's all I have with that one. Now, we have another matter that I want to bring up, but right now, that's what I am recommending, and I'm making a motion.
Can I have just some discussion before we go to the motion?
Yes.
Just one thought, since summer begins on the solar equinox, on, I believe it's June 20th, why don't we start summer hours on the beginning of summer? Question. And second thought, whenever we begin summer hours, I think we should have a review of the success of it a month after they start to see if it is really working for us.
I agree with the review, but I would like to retain my recommendation that we start on May 31st.
Okay.
Frank, can
May
you go into
31st?
why you think May 31st versus their request of May 1st? You probably had some logic there, just go a little deeper on it.
No, other than it does create some kind of scheduling problem, and
I could offer some
Go ahead.
feedback on that. Typically, the busiest time of year for the crew is April 1st to May 31st. Because of the cleanup that has to happen from all of the junk that's accumulated on the streets over the winter, people that didn't rake in the fall are taking their stuff out. The trucks and equipment have to be changed over from summer, or from winter to summer. There's planting, tree planting that has to happen, that they always struggle to get the trees in time before the summer season starts. And the cleanup of the village for Memorial Day, the regatta, and the other festivals that happen in the summer season, the lineup of the flowers and getting those planted, putting the bollards back on Shane Place, putting the pedestrian signs out, restoring the benches that are stored in the garage for the winter. All that stuff has to happen within a period of about 6 weeks. It's always a struggle for them to get it all done, and so I think things do calm down somewhat after Memorial Day, because then we're on to summer projects. But I would strongly skeptical of doing summer hours in that period of April 1st to May 31st.
And the reason for those dates is Memorial Day is on May 27th. And we need the full crew that time period. You don't remember, but John Kafari, the former superintendent, and I cleaned up trash bins on Memorial Day because we had no one available.
And John and I removed bollards and obstructions from the street because there was no crew.
Exactly.
So yes.
So you'd really like it to be between Memorial Day and Labor Day? So just after Memorial Day to just before Labor Day?
Yes.
And then resume. And to be clear for everybody in the audience, they're not talking about doing any less hours in a week. It's just a rearrangement of their time. So that's an important factor. We're not talking about changing the number of hours. So
Labor Day, by the way, is
early this year.
Is September 2nd.
Yeah, it's early this year.
So
So that's why August 31st. So that's the answer to your
those are the dates.
Okay. So do we need to be specific then? So the one person who will stay till 3:30 on a Friday, they would start at 11:30 and go to 3:30.
We will let the superintendent work that out, but perhaps he could have somebody come in later Monday.
We just don't want them to incur overtime.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I am recommending that the superintendent come in during those hours also.
Go. Peggy, that's up.
Another reason to hold out until basically June 1st is that we have a major PGA tournament going on in May. And
We need to
we've
look
got
at that.
preparation for that too. So.
And it's still pretty busy, because kids are still in school, they don't get out till mid-June, so it's a very busy time. I think people, we seem to get more quiet in July and August.
Right.
So,
The response from the majority of the villages that I spoke to, the superintendents, was that productivity was better during the summer hours. They said that because of the longer day, they were able to get more done. We were concerned that Friday would be kind of a wasted day, but we've talked to the superintendent and he knows how to schedule that, so we have good productive days.
I've been a skeptic of this.
So am I.
And, you know, we're doing this on an experimental basis to see how it works out.
Yes.
But I want to point out one thing, one difference between us and the other villages. Most of the other villages, 29 Falls is the exception, have larger DPW crews. And so they are not compromised as much by vacations during the summer as we are. Because when 2 people are out, we don't have full crews that can do the work. So that's just something we need to be aware of.
Right.
Okay.
I forgot to mention in my motion that this is for a one-year trial
I
period.
was just about to say that.
We'll see how it works.
Yep. And you'll accept my condition of a 1-month review after the summer hours begin?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'll second Frank's motion. All in favor? Aye. Okay,
Aye.
approved.
So related to this, just a little sidebar. When I asked to have this added to the agenda, I'm very unclear as to why it was not added to the agenda, to let people know that we were going to talk about this and vote on it. This is the third time we've talked about this particular issue. As a trustee, Lily, you with me?
I'm listening.
Okay, as a trustee, I'm able to add items to the agenda. And I don't understand why I've been now blocked for the third time.
No, as I understand it, the mayor approves the items that are added to the.
Any trustee, let's just clarify, any trustee can put an item on the agenda. Any trustee has the ability to do that. The reason I didn't go into executive session tonight is because in my view, we didn't meet the criteria.
That's not what we're talking about.
No, I
We're
understand.
talking about not being able to add an agenda item because you guys said I can't.
That wasn't the point.
That's what it says in the email.
Previously, we had discussed this in executive session. I was concerned about discussing employee matters until we had them somewhat resolved, but we couldn't make a motion until we came out of executive session and discussed it in the presence of the public. But before that, if there were any questions, sensitive matters, employee matters, I recommended that happen in executive session.
And I'm with you 100% of the way there, Frank. We were not ever talking about putting something just meant for executive session on the agenda. We talked about this last time, that we were going to vote on this in public. So this is a two-part problem. I've already said what my complaint is that, did everybody hear from Bob that all of the trustees are allowed to add agenda items without anybody's blessing?
That is correct.
Okay.
Is that your policy?
It's New York State Village law is what it is.
Okay. The only thing that I ask is that a trustee not be surprised by an item showing up on the agenda without any background information.
The only caveat to that.
You shouldn't do that.
If we're going to talk about something,
You should give the info.
we ought to know what we're going to talk about.
Absolutely.
Dan, the only.
That's my reservation.
The only caveat and exception to that would be if there's an item that's put on the agenda that should be an executive or client session. As mayor, I have the ability to move it into attorney-client session or executive session for a required reason, not arbitrarily, but for a required reason. But I agree completely. I didn't pay enough attention. If I had looked more closely at the agenda, it should have, I would have put it in regular session, so I agree with you on that.
Can I just make a point of
Okay.
clarification?
One more item. One more item.
I think
I wanted to just,
Peggy had it.
Oh,
because
go ahead,
I'm
go
a
ahead,
little
Peggy.
bit puzzled by this discussion. We all submit our requests for stuff to go on the agenda. Aren't you the one that decides?
I don't want to guess on this. I want to get the NICOM manual, and I want to read it right out of the NICOM
Operating under a wrong
manual.
impression all this time. It's not that we want to keep anything off of the agenda, but the ultimate decision, I thought, was the mayor's.
I'm
I'd
just
like a
about
point of
ready to vote.
clarification. I know, I'm just,
It's a discretion of the
Okay.
person, I think is the way it
Well, are you satisfied with the answer that I gave you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like some acknowledgement that you're not going to block me when I ask for
I intended to do that. I just thought that was the way it should be done. But if the mayor says that's not the way it should be done, I go along with the mayor. While you're going through that, can I discuss one more matter, which is
Yes, you may.
kind of minor? We have a request from a DPW employee to take vacation time 2 hours at a time
Yeah.
on Fridays. And I just want you to know that it's in the employee handbook that vacation time may be taken in half-day increments with the approval of the department head. So he did make a request. I have the request. I'm going to go to the superintendent and let him know that's what the policy is.
Okay,
Let's go with policy.
can I, this is section 5.5 of the NICOM handbook for village officials. On this page, these are suggested guidelines. These can be customized for each village, but because we don't have a policy that's different from this, I would suggest that we follow these standards. For agendas, there's 4 bullets. I'm going to read them quickly. The agenda of every meeting of the Board of Trustees will be prepared by the clerk at the direction of the mayor. The mayor or any trustee may have an item placed on the agenda on at least 24 hours' notice. When possible, items for the agenda must be given to the clerk by 4 p.m. the day prior to the meeting. Items may be placed on the agenda at any time, including during the meeting, by a majority vote of the board. The agenda will be prepared and emailed to board members no later than 5 p.m. the day before the meeting. If necessary, a supplemental agenda may be distributed at the beginning of the meeting. All of those things are things that we generally follow. But this is on my shelf. If anyone has any questions about procedure, this is the place to find the answers. It's what I use.
So items may not be removed from the agenda at your discretion?
Unless I have a technical reason, like I said before, there may be a legal reason or other reason I can remove an item, but I cannot, if you want to put an item on the agenda, I can't tell you that you can't put it on the agenda. Any of us can do that.
But as I said before, I think it is rather unfair for the other trustees, for a trustee, to put an item on the agenda without any foreknowledge, background information about what you're going to be talking about.
Then I think, I think our policy could be that when, unless it's we have informal items under member items, which often we all, those are minor things that often there isn't backing documentation. But I think we could certainly set a policy that on any major item that's going to be an agenda item, that the sponsor provide a descriptive background information so everybody is prepared to enter into full discussion during the meeting. I think that's a reasonable policy to have.
I agree.
Okay, good. Okay, with that, any other member items for tonight?
I have a couple quick ones.
Yep.
Sorry, did somebody want to go first?
Did you say, sure.
I didn't.
I don't mind going, because I was last time.
Okay, let's start with Peggy, and then we'll just move down the line.
I don't have anything.
Okay, Peggy, you don't have anything. Lily, do you have something?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
That'd be great. I did take my turn last time and I went last. Sophie has completed the business inventory that we requested, and so anybody can make copies of this who would like one, and here it is. And this is, and maybe we can ask Mary to make us all a copy of
That
that.
would be wonderful.
I think that would be a nice thing to have on the website. Is there a way?
I don't know.
No, I don't want to. We're going to hold off on that. I'm thinking of you, Mary. I don't want to burden you anymore. At the appropriate time, I think we should put it on the website, whether we're staffing or
But I think it would be very helpful to Steve to have this information. I mean, it's not in depth, it doesn't give, it's just basically,
There's nothing confidential.
The address.
Yeah.
I mean, what business is there. So maybe we can take a look at it and come up with some sort of analysis of what the climate and the, is in the village presently. Just as a cursory look at it, it appears that our Main Street business district area is very strong in that we have 33 filled addresses and 3 vacancies. Altogether, from this area to this area downstate of Monroe, it's about, it looks like about 90 businesses, commercial uses, and 7 vacancies.
National retail vacancy rate is around 37%. So we're substantially below it.
And that's just, there's not a deep analysis, that's just a cursory glance through there and count. That was it.
We also, I think, should share that with the comp planning committee. They may find it useful as well. Anything else, Lily? that you
No,
want-
that's it for me.
No? Frank, do you have anything else?
I've said enough. No.
Okay, Dan, you have the floor.
2 quick things. One is both of our Facebook page admins are not with us right now. So Kara's last day, and then Dorothy is not back. So how are we handling that? I'm happy to do it, to post events, if you'd like.
I think
It's very easy for
Dorothea
me.
has volunteered to step up.
Yes, I've had a conversation, and actually I'm an admin also.
Oh, you are
Yes,
now?
you are.
I am, at this point, we've kind of, Kara and I did the transition. I don't feel comfortable with it, so I did talk to Dorothy about it. She did say she would try to do
I
some
think
of
that
it.
would be good because
She needs
even though she's not here, that's the least she's probably going stir crazy anyway. So we can just send her stuff and
Yeah,
she'll post it.
Let's see how that works.
well, we'll see where that goes.
The other thing is a reminder of scheduling because of the Chamber of Commerce happy hour from 5 to 7. We're going to start our budget meeting at 6 on Thursday.
Correct.
And I want to make sure I have that on the calendar.
Yeah,
Where is the Chamber of
it's at
Commerce?
the Pittsburgh Pub.